The approach to official 100 climbs, number 85, Rhinos Pass, and beyond that, Hard Knot Pass, is exceptionally beautiful, with the skyline providing an imposing indication as to the little adventure that is about to commence. The Strava segment is 2.5 kilometres, averaging 11% gradient, and it goes without saying it's not an even 11%. The segment starts just before the cattle grid, and for the early part the gradient is forgiving, so best lay off the gas, other than of course for the mini ramps, and instead make a wise deposit into your leg bank energy reserves in order to tide you through the serious double-digit inclines. This year I've developed a newfound love for the UK districts, whether flavoured lake or peak. When experienced from the saddle, they instill a sense of joy, optimism and general well-being and renewal. It's like Bupa, but without the healthcare insurance premium. If you enjoy these little adventures, please do depress the subscribe button and even a thumbs up. If you had any mislaid hopes of a civilised in-the-saddle climb, the 25% gradient triangle politely but very firmly dispels such fantasies. From this point on, the terrain gradually ramps up, and it's easy to take this as a cue to go too hard too soon, but do hold off if you can and save the energy for a little bit later. You will be rewarded. There's a few little tasters of the really steep stuff on this section, just to disrupt any residual rhythm you may have still been able to sustain. And we now veer between 12 and 20% for some time. If you're like me, you're going to be teetering just the right side of the red, honing in on the sanctuary, or the perceived sanctuary, of each mini brow, only to be met by a new, typically more demanding challenge. Now this section of the climb feels almost perpendicular, even on fresh legs. But fear not, very much worse is yet to come. The hiker is clearly a veteran of these parts and is armed with a walking stick in order to provide additional leverage and traction. Is there an equivalent for the bike? This is the most challenging part of the climb, so take a moment to stay calm and tap yourself on your back for saving some matches to burn right now. Vectoring in on the brow on the skyline, you think you've done it. But no. Rhinos demands another small piece of you before it generously bestows upon you the most valuable of luxuries in these parts. I refer, of course, to the single-digit gradient-flavoured micro-recovery. My time? 13 minutes 23 seconds, placing me 189th on the Strava leaderboard, but top 12 in my age group. Average power was 304 watts and normalised 311. But given the final 0.6 kilometres, known as the business end, averages 15%, it feels a lot, and I mean a lot harder than that. The rewards are bountiful, unless of course you're pressing on to hard knot. I mean, look at it. Plus a descent to savour, slowly. In my case, very slowly. It's also particularly dangerous. Well, that's Rhinos Pass in the bag for the second time. Thoroughly enjoyed the climb. It is a proper difficult and challenging climb though, and definitely you have to hold back in the first third where it's a little bit shallower in order to save up some power in the leg bank for use a little bit later. The second 2/3 is horrible, and there's some really steep parts, especially on some of those switchbacks. Power going way into the sort of 350-400 range, and obviously all the training at lower threshold with surges, tempo with surges, this kind of thing, really helpful for taking on these steep climbs, these undulating gradients in the Lake District. Anyway, gonna head back in the opposite direction. Just wanted to hit Wrynose for a second time, do it justice on film. Well, Coniston is that way, Hawkshead is that way up the hill, and Jane and I are staying in Hawkshead. Therefore I thought it'd be remiss of me not to have a quick crack at Hawkshead Hill. Let's see how I go. Well, it would have been very impolite not to, and I'm not one to cause offence. Hawkshead Hill measures up at 2.3 kilometres, average gradient 7%. This is no Rhinos Pass, but nonetheless a very splendid challenge indeed. Nice and measured, nice and measured. That's the name of the game early on, upper zone 3 through threshold. My level of perceived exertion left me more than able to take in the quality of the gardening, and I can report that the flower bed and shrubbery game is tight in these parts. I do love a switchback, and I take this as a sign to bleed in a bit more power. The gradient steepens, so it's up and out the saddle and more power. After the micro recovery, it's time to burn all of the remaining matches. It's the last climb of the holiday, and I tell myself off. I could have gone a little bit earlier on the steeper bits where it counts more. And just like that, we're done. Hawkshead Hill is in the bag in 7 minutes 24 seconds, placing me 127th on the overall Strava leaderboard and 12th in my age group. So all in all, a very good morning for me. Nature, power, more power, vistas, nature, power, more power, and then time for the carbohydrates. Well, fittingly, here I am back in Hawkshead, and I really enjoyed the climb of Hawkshead Hill. It's a bit like Leith Hill and Box Hill kind of merged into one, because you've got a couple of switchbacks, but you've also got some steep paths. Just under 7.5 minutes. Really enjoyed it. Highly recommended. This was a fasted ride, therefore going to head back now to where we're staying and have a few little carbohydrates, and then we're going to pop out for a treat or two. And to the climber, the spoils.